Hey, it's Saturday, September 7th, and continuing on with skylight and windshield installation. Last we left off, we had just got this trimmed back and lined up and everything, and we were trying to determine the rivet locations for the hold down strip that goes across there. And the other thing that I had questions on, and I actually haven't got an answer, was this right here. And there was a comment about maybe because of the wing incidence, but you know, even if that was dropped down to the lower setting, that's still a really significant amount of bend that's in there. But I think we're gonna take a scrap piece of this acrylic. We're just gonna make I think a spacer and put it underneath this just to pick that up a little tiny bit. I don't know. We'll keep looking at the book here and figure it out. So yeah, here we go. Oh yeah, forgot to mention, ended up picking up one of these tools. Probably wish we had this a while back. I'd never seen one of these before. Handy clamp. You just so you can put a nut in there, or I suppose a bolt too, the end of a bolt, and you screw this thing down, clamps on, and you can stick that thing way down inside and hold it in there to put a nut on somewhere to get it started. But anyway, handy clamp, the 20 bucks. So there you go. All right, lots of researching going on here. And once we started looking at that aft hold down strip on the skylight, and started looking at things. Some stuff doesn't add up. One of them is this here. This is the trim strip, the outboard trim strip that's between the wing and the skylight. And we cut ours, measured it 46 7/8 if you remember from previous video. And then we did all of the rivet spacing in here, did all of that work in there. But now we have found, let's find that. Where's that at? Where this is shorter. So here's what we found in figure 10G17 is they show that this trim strip aligns not quite, almost with the forward edge of the tail cone skin. If this is 46 7/8, I'll show you where it lands. So this strip is 46 7/8 inches long, and it actually ends up right at the tail end of the top wing skin, which to me appears to be correct. You'd think it'd be correct. But in the manual now, they show this trim strip ending at, you can see where our tail cone skin is there, which lines up with this line here, and you bring that across, and it's actually, so this trim strip is long, and you can see I've got a mark right here where that tail cone skin ends. So yeah, and we got started looking at the flap gap seals, and this is what led us to this conclusion that this is wrong. We've looked at the flap gap seals, and we're trying to make heads or tails out of that stuff, and it was lining up over the top of this. So I think that this 46 7/8 is not correct. We're not going to do anything with this yet. If anybody wants to have a comment on this, maybe we were missing something. But the big conclusion was we're not going to use the Rand's flap gap seals. I think we're going to get the Aerosport. Looked those over, and I like how where they come in, it actually sandwiches this this skylight. So it sandwiches over that and is a solid, not solid, but it's hollow, but comes all the way back here, and you attach it to the fuselage. But everything then you go through and you can trim these strips out to where it matches up with that flap gap seal. So I think that's what we're going to do. We're gonna ditch the Rand's flap gaps. We're going to do the Aerosport gaps, flap gaps. So we're going to stop. Well, I should say we're not going to trim this. We're not going to stop this. We're going to drill this out for all this to fit up, but we're not going to process this area here quite yet. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay. And fabricate and drill aft mating strip per figure 10G-22, and that figure does not exist in the book, and we determined that so there's 23 and there's 20. We determined it's 10G-19 in our book. And this part, number 4, this is what we're talking about, the strip that goes across the back. Part number 4 is an aft trim strip. And that's this WSSLS. But in the figures manual, they refer to it as a capture strip that you fabricate out of a mating strip. So there's no capture strip, there's no mating strip listed in the parts manual. So that is the aft trim strip. So when you get to this part, don't get confused. This part number 4 here, aft, oh yeah, and the book. Fabricate and drill aft mating strip. Although in the parts manual it's referred to as a trim strip. And they refer to it again as a mating strip in the figures, but then it becomes a capture strip once you trim it. Very interesting. Did I say this already? I'm not gonna do a spacer under here. There's foam that goes under that, and then that hold down strip goes on the back, on the top of there. So yep, we'll just we'll do this the way they've got it in the figures manual. Okay, one thing I forgot to do was when I cut this back end of this skylight off here, when we trimmed this down, I just hand cut it with a jigsaw, and of course you can't get it completely straight as a human being, but so I've got this straight edge on here, and we're going to use a belt sander and just kind of bring, because it is a hair long in spots where I kind of came out, so we're going to take a belt sander with a straight edge on there. I'm going to trim that up so that's nice and straight. Nice thing about using this this aluminum angle as a straight edge on here is when I'm sanding on here, you can feel when that sander gets down to where the aluminum is, it starts to drag a little bit, so you can just feel it, so you can get it perfectly along that line there. And yeah, it feels really good now. Got our rivet holes all measured out and drilled on this strip here, and then we laid it down on the skylight and marked. We just marked through the holes and then verified, pulled this off, checked the holes or the marks, and make sure it's clearing all of our rivets. And we had gone through and marked all the tab rivet locations on here. One thing we're doing a little bit different is we're not putting a center line rivet in here. We decided to go 1.25 off either side of the center line. We'll put a rivet there, so the spacing's a little tighter in here between these two, and then those two, it's a little tighter there. But yeah, that's what we decided to do. because the centerline stringer is underneath there. We'd be going through all of that. Did they spec a bigger rivet for that? I didn't even know. They just spec the regular rivet in there. Yeah, so the centerline stringer underlies that. So yeah, that's why we're doing that. We're starting fit up of the Windshield Z Z strips, and I'll show it kind of how it works here in a sec. But we do have to do a little notch out of the very top of it here, where there's a welded gusset on the frame that interferes with that. So we have to notch that out a little bit, and do have to put a little bit of a bend in this corner here so it doesn't rub up against the windshield. And I'll, like I said, I'll go over and show you what I mean. Okay, here's that Z strip as it sits inside, and you can see I put a little bit of a bend on that top part here just so we could get this fit up, and then we'll round that out. But then here's that gusset where we've got to cut a notch in there. Something else I was going to say about the fit up on this, we did have the doors on. We put the doors on, was checking the fit, and it's not quite straight. Like, the bottom is really nice and close on the door, and the top has a little more of a gap in it. I think what I would do if I were to do this again is when you do the doors, a long time ago, we did a strip of tape on this tube, and they had you locate the center and then mark it. And that's the basis of where you trim the door, the forward door trim, and then this is where this lays. Theory being that this strip, the Z strip, should be a 1/16 of an inch or 32nd of an inch forward of the line, and that the door trim should be a 32nd behind the line, so you end up with a 1/16 of an inch gap in there. We're not going to have that, I don't think, especially up here at the top. It's going to be a little bit wider gap. We might have to adjust the door trim a little bit. So, that being said, if I were to do this again, when I build the doors, I would not trim the forward door trim to fit. Maybe do the bottom one. Don't do the top one. I would wait until you get the Z strip installed, not installed, but clecoed up here, and then measure that against the door and trim it and set your gap in there. But that's just one builder's opinion and mine. Well, look at this day today. Actually not half bad. I think it was about 90 or so. It started to get a little toasty in the hangar, but smoke's kind of rolling out a little bit, but I think we're due for some more here tomorrow or the day after. That'd be Monday, but we'll see what happens. Alright, we're done for today, and the intent was to do this first, get this done, and then document and video doing the other side, but we haven't got to that other side yet. We're just still working on this. We kind of have it down here, but man, what a pain this thing is. I think this thing came on and went off more than the wing skins did when we were building the wings. We've had this on and off of here probably 20 times today already. But yeah, you have to you have to put a bend in here, and man, that was a hard bend to make just to get it right. Back and forth and back and forth. This thing looks a little bit mangled. I don't know how it's going to come out when it gets painted, but we'll have to check it out. Same with the inside Z strip. And it's still, this one still needs tweaking. There's a big gap in it right here, and then it matches up. It hits the windshield right here, but there's a gap starting about right there. All the way, like it's got too much of a bend in it. I'm gonna have to bend that back out. But yeah, it's just back and forth with this thing today. So tomorrow we'll hopefully, we better get this finished up tomorrow, this one, and then I'll show maybe a little more of getting that fit up there. So oh, and something we've noticed is this windshield, and I think that's might be a little bit common maybe, is that like one side's not exactly the same as the other. And if you recall, we did mark the center line on this windshield. We measured it and marked the center line. And on this side, the book claims, and I'm not going to take this off, but there's a spacer strip underneath here. The book claims that the windshield butts up against the spacer strip. This isn't anywhere close. I mean, we're talking probably a 1/4 inch of a gap all up and down in here on that. And the other side is actually a little bit long. We're gonna have to trim that side off to get it to fit probably a 1/4 inch or so. So we'll see how that goes tomorrow. But yeah, anything else, boss? Nope. All right. Hey, thanks for watching the videos, everybody. Have a good evening, and that's it for now.